In programmed auto, you have similar options as you would with manual, except now the values are going to move in tandem on the screen. So we're in programmed auto, and the bottom row is for the f-stop, and the top row is the shutter speed. Now notice as the shutter speed gets longer, we need less light because now the shutter is going to stay open for a longer time. So then the aperture is going to be stopped down or closed. Now remember, the aperture number, as it gets larger, the opening is smaller. And if we go the other direction, when the shutter speed is faster, meaning we're staying open for a shorter time, now we need a wider aperture to let in enough light to get the same exposure based on our exposure compensation. Notice how we're limited here in either direction. So we can't get anything shorter than 1/25 of a second at f1.4. Now, if we tell the camera that we don't need that much light, then we can get some different values. So now we can get to 1/60 of a second. If we go even further down, now we can get 1/60 of a second. If we go in the opposite direction, we're going to be limited as far as how fast our shutter can be. So now the lowest we can go is 1/5 of a second. Right? Now if we put this in auto ISO, we're going to have a little bit more flexibility because now the camera will have the option to change the ISO to match the exposure. So 8,000. Now if we tell the camera we don't need that much light, and the same combination of shutter speed and aperture, we should need less ISO, from 8,000 to 1,600. Now if we lower the exposure compensation even more, you can imagine that the ISO is going to be lower, 500. Now let's say we wanted this to be brighter. We don't want to mess with the ISO so much, but we want to mess with, say, the shutter speed. We can say we want a longer shutter speed. So from 1/400 to 1/160. Let's see what that gives us. 500. So that's not too bad. Not too bad. So, but there's a lot more going on that you have to keep track of. In my view, I prefer to just use manual than having to look at two rows at the same time and trying to guess what my ISO is. Just imagine that in the higher the ISO, the more noise you will have in the image, brighter your image is going to be.